Hey guys, I just wanted to make a video or a series of videos of how I'm thinking about the sled hauling setup and the rigging. As you probably understand, basically we may well be just one rope team or two rope teams, and typically each person is hauling a sled, usually up to 14,000 feet. And um, because we should be traveling rope the whole time, people typically have the sled being pulled behind them, but then the sled is also attached to the rope via a prusik or some other mechanism. And so if someone's going down, if the first person's going downhill and the second person is falling, they can kind of control where the sled is that the first person's pulling by tugging on the rope. But that's kind of annoying, and it's probably nicer to have at least a little bit more control. Hence the value of something like a brake or a speed brake on the sled, even if you're not the last person. I'm kind of designing my setup as if I am the last person on the rope, that there's nobody behind me to help manage my sled. So I've rigged up a kind of more complicated braking system to have more control over it, and I think it works really well. So I wanted to share that and share how I'm setting mine up, because I did buy the Paris Expedition Sled and have been troubleshooting it. So following this is some videos of the first set of videos. Is the first videos are me, or video is me kind of out on my first outing trying the sled out before I had tried the speed brake, but the setup worked pretty well. And then I'll show you some photos or video from my workshop of some more detail. And then the last is where I'm back out in the out at Mount Ashland trying my speed brake, which really helps to kind of make tugging the sled downhill more steady and not kind of run up on you and then the brakes engage. So I hope this helps you troubleshoot your rigging of the sled and getting the materials. And if you want me to gather the materials, as I say, I think later in the videos, let me know. I'm happy to crate sled rigging kits for us. Just let me know. All right, hope you enjoy. Oh, and on the question of poles, should we use poles? I think the answer is no. I find that with the system I've created, I really don't need poles, and honestly, I find that the poles don't really take much of the jarring motion out of the climbing. They definitely help with the downhill, but with a good braking system, I don't think we need that. And poles are heavier, so certainly you could use them, but there's no easy way to connect them to the rig with the sled without modifying the sled, like with the ski polk rails and so I think we can just get away with using webbing, because it doesn't require any modification of the sled, and in my hands it works pretty well. Okay guys, I just want to show you what I've kind of set up here. So I've got basically this nice pack has hip belts that you can kind of attach carabiners into, and what I have is a sliding X going to this carabiner, and then basically a runner coming down here to a locker. And I do recommend doing a locker because this can end up going under, and I actually had a single carabiner unlock and unclip. So and then what I really like is the chain brakes. The front chain brake is attached to a separate length of cord that I'm going to shorten up. But basically, it's kind of a brake strand that I've connected to. I've secured it to here, but I actually have it wrapped around to the other side to take up the slack. And you basically can dial in the slack so that when you're going forward, the chain doesn't go underneath. But if the sled starts to come forward, it basically catches up to the chain, and the chain goes under and breaks it. So it auto brakes you really nicely, and I have some other video of that. So I'm pretty satisfied with this webbing-based setup. Next time, the other thing is I actually also put in this little bit of shock cord. And what I trialed, and actually works really nicely, is I actually clip this up into the shock cord, and this helps buffer some of the tug
jarring that you get when you start going uphill with the heavier load. And I was pulling about I think this is about 70 pounds or so, which is probably about as much as we're gonna have, maybe a little more, in the sled. And it actually worked really, really well to take out some of that jarring. So I tried some other ways of hooking this up, and I'm sure there's a million different ways you can hook this up, but having this kind of across and stretched did a good job of having the right tautness and buffering. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'll share this, some measurements I have for these links of all these things, so you can kind of look into doing your own, or if you want, I can actually acquire all this stuff for us if you're interested. All right, thanks. Okay guys, I'm gonna try to make a video of my sled setup, so maybe you guys can use it to help design your own, or just copy mine. So here's the Paris Expedition Sled in International Orange. And what I've set up, I mean, don't worry about these guys. Those are the ski polk rails that we'll probably not use on Denali. But what I did is basically along the sides are these little holes that my way of doing it is to basically use some paracord. This is just black, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 mil paracord from Home Depot. But basically I have overhands. I think this one's probably a figure 8, and then it just goes underneath and comes up out with the overhand to create a little loop to tie into. And I've measured things out. I'll give you those measurements about how long this would have to be. And then in addition, this is the over strap that will be used to basically lace up things and hold the duffel inside. So I'll show you that in a second. And I'll also show you how the brakes are made and work. But basically this is plastic chain from Home Depot here in the States. And basically this is 28 inches of chain, and these little screw or steel linkages on each side to attach to the understrap, and I'll show you that. I like these. I wouldn't use a carabiner with an open thing because there's a good chance it'll pop open. I've had that happen. So, but I like these little steel things are plenty strong and lightweight. So let me show you what it looks like putting it more together. Okay, here it is laced up with the overcord, and basically what I've done here is just basically I wrapped it back around and around this guy. I did a midshipman's hitch or taut line. I'm not sure what the difference is, but basically it's just a way of cinching it up once it's laced and loaded. So that works pretty nicely. Okay, and the next part are the brakes. So we have a front brake, again with these linkages. It's just on the rail of the under cord there that goes through the tie-on loops, and this is basically intended to be attached to a piece of cord that you're basically it's tied to your harness or whatever, your pack, and you basically can control the slack. But what happens if the sled starts coming at you? Well, the slack builds up, and this ends up, I mean, this usually underneath. This goes underneath the sled, and it will nicely slow it down. But you can adjust the tension on this, depending on how many links you have, to kind of change the responsiveness. But it actually works pretty well. But you need another cord to basically control this, because you need to be able to dial in the slack appropriately. And also hold this out, because if you don't have something to hold this, it's just going to go back under and be braking all the time. And then also in the back, very important, because when we go up Squirrel Hill and Motorcycle Hill and you take a rest, you need something to kind of to brake it, keep it from sliding back downhill. And again, this probably could be tighter if you need it a little bit more responsive, but this works just fine. The last thing I wanted to mention is, I think I haven't fully experimented with this yet, but I think for going downhill, there's going to be a benefit for having a speed brake that just adds friction and doesn't stop the sled, but just, you know, adds friction and makes you able to go downhill without it advancing on you. So I think probably the right thing to do is have a linkage with some cord or runners or something. But I think the cord probably is a good thing, and it will just add friction so that you can kind of go down at a steady pace and not have the chain constantly just running up and stopping it and running it, stopping, because that gets kind of annoying. It's not the worst, but it is kind of annoying. So
slight downhill here. As you can see, Tom is demonstrating the superiority of his braking system that he's developed / stolen from other people on the internet. It's working pretty dang good. Denali, here you come.